Good morning, friend. It's Bob again. I want to bring you a reflection, a couple of days on Luke chapter 5 and a story that I think that the Lord has got something to say to us on. And this is the story of Jesus interacting with a man with leprosy. And as we are actually looking at this and we're talking about this idea that the church is on mission and that you and I are representative agents, ambassadors of the kingdom, that we are moving toward people instead of away from people, that we are moving toward people that are not like us, toward people that are outcast, toward people that are in these spaces that actually sort of isolate them from the general public, and that God says, I want you to be my agents to move toward them and into their space, into their world, and bring me with you when you do that. And so this is from Luke chapter 5, verse 12. This is Luke recording Jesus and this particular story. While Jesus was in one of the towns, a man came along who was covered with leprosy. And when he saw Jesus, he fell with his face to the ground and he begged him, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Well, Jesus reached out his hand first and touched the man. Now remember, this man with leprosy is an untouchable. He's a person who's not supposed to be touched. In fact, he's supposed to yell out, unclean, unclean, so that everyone will get out of his way wherever he is. Jesus actually, before he does anything else, he moves toward the guy, he reaches out his hand and touched him. I am willing, be clean. And immediately, boom, the leprosy left him. And then Jesus ordered him, don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest and offer sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them. Yet, obviously the guy didn't do that, neither would you, neither would I. Yet the news about him spread all the more, so the crowds came to him to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Now, a couple of things I want to draw your attention to this morning, and then we'll look kind of at a larger picture of this tomorrow. But a couple of things here. So one, this guy is in a position, in a place in his life, not of his own choosing, that has isolated him. And I think you would agree that people are isolated, and in the pandemic, it's even become worse, that people are isolated. And I think that with all of the social distancing and masking and staying at home orders and all those different things, that people have become further isolated. My wife is a marriage and family therapist, and this isolation is doing a number on people. It is just absolutely causing them to go wacky. And that's not what she would say about any of the people. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that articles that I've read, studies have shown, and talking with different therapists that I know of, that this isolation is doing a number on people. You know what this is like, that when you're isolated, you become your own worst enemy. You stew in your own juices. You have a chance to uneditedly buy into all kinds of thinking that isn't necessarily true. But this guy is actually, he's isolated. It's actually sort of the way of things, that if you have this particular condition, you are isolated. It's a rule in society that you're isolated. So he's isolated. He's supposed to be yelling out unclean wherever he goes so that people can scatter. He's a man without touch. And Jesus, what does Jesus do? The first thing when Jesus sees the guy and the guy says, Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean. Well, you see, firstly, and Jesus is the visible representation of the invisible God. If you're willing, is it your will to heal me? And Jesus says, I am willing, be clean. So for me, I think that these kind of statements that Jesus makes actually put me in touch with a very different position on who God is, that I think a lot of times we think, well, Lord, if it's your will, because we think mostly that it isn't his will to heal. Yet all throughout the world, people actually do think that, and they see God moving and healing all the time. That's a different issue. But Jesus says, I am willing, be clean. If you're asking God, are you willing to heal? This is one place at least where you could say, Jesus says, I am willing. And he reaches into the man's world. He comes closer to the guy. He goes into his world and he touches him. And as the result of that touch, of that healing touch of the master, the man is healed. Now, here's what I believe that God wants us to get from this today. There are all kinds of people in your world today that are isolated. Even though they might be walking and they might be, a foot away from you, they are isolated in their own little world. And many of them are in their own little cages. And we you and I, as ambassadors and agents of God's invisible kingdom, need to make that kingdom visible by moving in their direction, moving into their world, moving toward them, not away from them. And again, you could say, well, wait, we were in a pandemic. It's like people still need you moving toward them and not away from them. And I want to ask you today, as agents and ambassadors, asking God, how can you use me today, Lord, to look for the people that are kind of moving away from everybody, or people that are sitting on the sidelines, and ask the Lord, how can I move toward them? How can I move in with a touch? How can I move in with and actually be you and make your invisible kingdom visible to them today? Look for the people that are isolated and draw near to them. That's your assignment for today. That's my assignment for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I love you. I'm praying for you. God bless you.